my sweat and my rust. I'm breathing in the chemicals. I'm breaking in, shaping up, then checking out on the prison bus. This is it, the apocalypse. Whoa.
And we are back with another edition of Disaster Survival Magazine's Weekly Radio. I am your host, Vincent Von Doom. Vincent Von Doom. Hi, this is Vincent Von Doom with Disaster Survival Magazine's Weekly Radio, and we are on with our newest member, Tom Linden of the UK Preppers Radio Network. Tom, how's it going?
Well, firstly, it's a pleasure to be here, Vince. Thank you for the invitation. We're struggling over here with the bad weather, as I'm sure you know. But, you know, we're all prepared for, and we're dealing with it as it comes along.
Well, we wish everyone over there the best of luck. Hopefully, if they're following any of your good advice, they'll be a little better off. Let me ask you, what do you think about all this that's going on in Ukraine? And do you think it has anything to do with the dollar, maybe China dumping all the U.S. debt, and possibly maybe what we're seeing is the collapse of the dollar and possibly the collapse of the West? And if that is true, hopefully not, what are the impacts for the United Kingdom?
Well, firstly, I've got extreme sympathy with the protesters. I feel very, very sorry for them. I think it's despicable that their government is firing on them. And it's not indiscriminate firing, it's targeted sniping. I've just been watching a program on television where they were literally shooting people either in the groin or the head. So this is target.
Yeah, that's disgusting. This
is slaughter.
Yeah, those are some pretty disturbing images coming out of the Ukraine.
Yeah, there's over 70 people.
I've heard even higher reports than that.
Really?
It's not limited to the Ukraine, though. This is happening in quite a few places now, right? Venezuela, in the Middle East, there's still a lot of places that are having it. I'm wondering how much longer it'll go.
I missed that completely there, Vince, if you wouldn't mind repeating.
It's not just going on in the Ukraine, these protests. A lot of people are starting to think that this is a global revolution and global protests. A lot of the people at these protests are wearing the same masks, the V for Vendetta masks. They're holding the same signs, and the same pamphlets are being distributed, and when you translate them, they're the same message. So we're wondering how much longer until this comes to the United States. Is this why FEMA and Department of Homeland Security has been gearing up? A lot of people are starting to think that maybe the dollar is collapsing, and that's why you're seeing all these protests and revolutions, and that it's our turn, like in the Soviet Union, and that it's coming to us next.
Well, firstly, I think we've got to admire the people from wherever they come who are prepared to stand up against machine guns and armor-piercing rounds. That's something which not many people, certainly here in the West, would consider doing. So I think that's one there. People have had enough. They're sick of somebody's foot on the head, and yeah. I think they're going to stand up and fight it.
Yeah. Now, what was the cause of this again? This was over a trade union dispute for the European Union. They wanted to join the European Union, and they backpedaled and went with Russia instead?
No. Basically, Ukraine gets most of its oil, gas, and electricity from Russia. And
that was part of the... Yeah, Russia offered the electricity at the power at cheaper costs, and they abandoned the trade agreement.
And they also offered them a $15 billion handout. Now, the problem is that you've got two types of people in Ukraine. You've got the Christians in the West, and you've got the Orthodox Christians in the East. Now, at the moment, they're not fighting each other. If they were to do that, you would be looking at another Yugoslavia. So hopefully that won't happen.
Boy.
At the moment, it's the people against the state. And if it stays that way, then you've probably got a repeat of what's going on in Syria. The real crux of the problem is the government don't want to abandon Russia. It's always had an affinity with Russia. It's always had connections politically and financially with Russia. The people in the west of the country, the Christians, they want to have closer ties with Europe and all that would bring to them, freedom of movement and trade agreements. And that's basically where it stems from.
Well, this is what I believe. I believe that they are building a new world order and that they're developing super bloc countries. Evidence is the North American, the European Union was first. Now, I believe that the United States is going to collapse into the North American Union. That China is becoming so powerful that the only way that the United States can stand up to it is if they turn into the North American Union.
Yeah, but be careful with China at the moment, because China is in that much debt. People don't know how they're going to pay it back. China has gone from
our
zero.
debt to China.
No. China's debt to the world. What's happened is China's gone from really nothing, people in paddy fields, to people who are making every product that the rest of us use. I don't know about America, but whatever you buy over here, it says made in China.
So if China's in debt and the United States is in debt, where is all this money going?
Well, you and I both know it's the bankers who are pulling the strings. You see,
That's what I'm talking about, the global elite.
Yeah, but a lot of credit doesn't exist.
I think what we're seeing, I know, and we're starting to find that out. We have all the banker deaths and suicides, and I think with global communication, I think that people are starting to figure out that there's an international elite, a criminal elite that are running things. And it's the people versus their governments or the people in power. And I think these revolutions are going to spread all across the world, and we are going to see a major battle happening soon. I don't know if it's going to be looked back upon as World War III, but people are definitely smartening up to what's going on, and it's getting very scary. And the United States is in trillions of dollars of debt. The DHS is purchasing armored vehicles, and they're gearing up for something here in the United States.
Well, you've only got to look at local police force who are militarizing their clothing, their vehicles, they're buying drones. You know, this isn't a fashion statement. There's a reason why they're doing this. And it's happening over here now as well.
I think they're preparing for the collapse of the dollar. That's what I think.
Well,
and I think it's going to happen sooner than later.
As an example, as you well know, the euro was very close to collapsing not so long ago, particularly with places like Greece, where people were selling their children for food. There were no medical supplies. It's a really bad situation over there. And you know, they bailed them out. Because
the IMF, the International Monetary Fund?
No, the EU. Because if Greece had gone from the EU, the European Union, the euro would have collapsed. They're falsely keeping it afloat. You know, every time I
How much longer can they fall?
Well, they can keep printing
money.
Go
ahead, Tom.
Yeah, as long as they can chop trees down, they can keep printing money, can't they? The trouble is when they print it, it devalues it. So then they play around with the interest rates. The trouble with the EU, with Europe, is that one interest rate is supposed to suit all. And obviously it can't do that, can it? Because you've got different European countries at different stages of development. Now, when you look at Bulgaria and Romania, which are really, to be quite honest, they're not first world countries, they're probably second world countries with the level of poverty they have there. And the only thing they've got to offer us in the West is cheap labour. There's nothing else they can bring to the party. Yet the EU is... Yep.
I'm worried if there is some type of major economic collapse in the West, it will end up taking down whatever progress the European Union has made with the euro.
Well, of course it will. But you've got to understand that not everybody in the Eurozone wants to be in the Eurozone. Every time I've travelled abroad in mainland Europe, and I've spoken to whether it's Italians, Germans, Greeks, French, Switzerland isn't in the EU, they want their original money back. They want the mark, the lira, they want the French franc. Because not only was it something they understood, but they had control over that as an individual country. And it was also, if you think about it, it was a symbol of their success. Look at the German mark.
What did you think about Germany asking for all their gold back and that we weren't able to give it to them right away? We told them it would take years for us to give it back. And then we've been finding tungsten inside gold bars. They've been taking out all the gold inside gold bars and replacing it with tungsten.
Yeah, it's absolutely disgraceful what the bankers have been getting away with. You know, I think there's a case now for what I would call a national bank or a national banking system. Because at the moment, we've got bankers who are gambling with our money. And that's all playing on the stock exchanges. It's gambling. And when they get it wrong, and we're not talking $10 or $20 here, we're talking millions of dollars. When they get it wrong, they get a pat on the back, they get a bonus, and there's no repercussions. But surely to goodness, why should we suffer? We didn't cause this economic collapse, this economic problem. It was the bankers that caused it, but the bankers seem to get floated every time they do something wrong. And that's
what do you think about all these bankers committing suicide? What do you think about all the suicides last week? These were all men in their 30s at the height of their careers. They spoke to their families just a few minutes before cell phone records show that they would be right home, and then all of a sudden they're dead.
That's very worrying, isn't it? It's a trend, incidentally, which is worldwide. It's not just in, America or UK. It's in both places.
That's what makes me believe we're about to see a major market reset, and whether it's the collapse of the dollar, something is definitely brewing. And this spring, I think we are going to see it reveal itself for whatever it is. We have this big movement here in the United States called Operation American Spring, and if that was anything like the Arab Spring, we're in for a real treat here in the United States, because the militia groups here in the United States have really, a lot of people have been joining the militias, and they've really been stocking up on weapons because they think they're going to have to go toe-to-toe with the militarized police forces. And if that ever happened, if there was ever a civil war or revolution in America, it would make America weak, and then we could be invaded by other countries, China, Russia, more terror attacks. It leaves us wide open, and there's definitely something going on, and that's why I recommend that everyone starts prepping and get into survival, and that they listen to your show, and that they become a member of the Disaster Survival Network, because the writing is on the wall. Something is definitely going on, and it's not good, and we're going to find out sooner or later what's really going on, and it doesn't look good. And by the way, on your article that you wrote about the attack on the power grids, there is there's an article in Disaster Daily about U.S. Navy SEALs on power grid attack, a carbon copy of how we would do it.
Oh.
They were saying that it was carried out with tactical precision, that they would have done the same thing, cutting the phone lines, and they're saying that a bigger attack is probably on its way. So if you mix the grid going down with the economic conditions, we're in a lot of trouble here. Almost just one major event could set this whole thing off.
You're heading for the 1800s. I don't know if you know what I mean by that, Vince. You're heading back to